Let's talk about the potential for this wide receiver room now with Justus Ross-Simmons back in the fold. What I would say about it is it definitely increases the floor. The floor is definitely higher when you have a guy like Justus Ross-Simmons back in the mix. And also there's a little bit of upside attached because I do think that with Justus Ross-Simmons, if he can stay healthy, he can put up career high numbers, especially Syracuse career high numbers. I think his career high overall is about 700 yards. I don't know if he'll hit that even if he stays healthy a whole season, but he definitely makes the wide receiver room better. But obviously, they're going to need more. We talked about Darius Johnson maybe emerging as the starting slot. Zamondre Merriweather is turning some heads in fall camp as well. Calvin Russell, he's injured, but who knows? Maybe he can return at some point in the year. And he's coming off a torn Achilles, so you never really know. But, hey, optimistic. He returns, and he's great upon impact, upon his return, right? So, Neil, what do you think the ceiling is for this wide receiver room? I asked the tough questions here on Locked On Syracuse.
Well, it's – dude, you're great. What's the ceiling? I think the wide receiver room can be good, assuming that dudes that we've just talked about, some of them step up, maybe some more than others. Steve Angeli does what he did last year through the first 3.5 games and doesn't get injured, knock on wood. And the offensive line is solid and the run game is solid. So there's balance. I mean, I know, Jeff Nixon's style offense, he's going to have Angeli sling it a lot like, he was last year and like Kyle McCord did in 2024. But I really want an offense that's more balanced. I really do. And that doesn't mean that Angeli can't throw it a bunch and be really good and be all ACC caliber and potentially lead the ACC in passing yards and touchdowns or, be up there. But I also don't want him throwing the ball like 75 times a game. That's a little bit of an exaggeration, but just I want balance. But in terms of the wide receiver room, I think there are nice pieces. It's just how's it all going to shake out? Again, I've always, and I know they didn't play a lot last year, but Darian Williams and Darius Booby Johnson, I was really high on last year. Let's see what Tyshawn Russell can do. Then you've obviously got two veterans and Amari Hatcher and Justus Ross-Simmons. And then you've got a bunch of transfers. Like you said, Merriweather and Weaver. Are there other transfer wide receivers that I'm blanking on right now? Are those the two main ones?
Potentially. I mean, there's so many wide receivers.
I know. I can't keep track of
guys.
Right. But I mean, I think I hit, the main dudes. And like part of me is like thinking, and I feel like you and I talked about this once before, is it like a good thing if ultimately they have like 8 or 10 wide receivers that all have like 20, 30, something, whatever catches, like a decent amount and like 400 to 600 yards, but no guys with 1,000. I mean, I guess it's, it's the totality that matters more than if we have a 1,000-yard receiver or whatever. But I mean, look, I think it'd be better to have a handful of dudes that are really like up here and are getting more targets than the others. But then if the guys that are on the, the backside of the two deep are still capable and coming in, and if there's injuries or whatever, like the depth can be a good thing as long as there are some guys who are the go-to guys who can produce.
I think ultimately the ceiling is top 5 in the ACC as a wide receiver.
Okay.
Room.
If you're asking that, okay, sure.
But
okay. Yeah.
But as a floor, Justus Ross-Simmons elevates the floor, but that doesn't mean the floor of this wide receiver room is strong. I would say it also could be a bottom 5 unit in the ACC, just because even with Justus Ross-Simmons, you still don't have a lot of proven production in that wide receiver room. The good news is that they have a good offensive coordinator in theory with Jeff Nixon. We saw what he did in 2024 in the beginning of 2025. And you have a good quarterback in theory with Steve Angeli starting the first 4 games last year.
That's a good foundation.
At a high level. It's a great foundation. Having the quarterback and the OC, you need those tools in order to have a successful wide receiver room. You can have the best wide receiver room in the country, but I can assure you,
throw it to him.
Collins throwing you the football, you're not going to be very good.
Right.
It's just how it is.
Yeah, sure. Get it. I get it.
So it's volatile. It's one of those units that can go either way. I think that there are some on Syracuse where it can be upper echelon, right? Like the cornerback room for Syracuse could be one of the best units in the ACC. Linebackers could be pretty strong. That's a little more volatile as well. But those are some units maybe with a little bit more certainty wide receiver room has that boom potential where it could be a top 5, maybe even top 3 unit in the conference, but
Agreed.
also it could be bottom 5 in the conference because they have depth, but they don't have the elite. They don't even have the average to above average guys at the very top. That's why the games are played, and so we'll ultimately see how it all shakes out. That's Neil Adler from Inside the Loud House and Jackson Holzer. This is Locked On Syracuse. Neil, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Can we start playing already?
I wish. I would. If it were up to me, the first.
I'm ready, brother.
Tonight it would be on August 17th. What, this episode's premiering at 6 p.m. Eastern. Right. So 7 o'clock. Syracuse football plays their first game of the season. But no, Neil, unfortunately, I do not have power. But the NCAA doesn't have power either. So join the club. NCAA, Neil, myself, we don't have any power over anybody anymore.